everyone, it's Julianne Meyer. I am back again. And today I have a guest on that I have known for almost my whole life, come to think of it. Anyway, her name is Jami Cox, and I am, well, I wouldn't say prejudiced because that's probably a negative word, but I definitely have an affinity for Miss Jami because I've known her for so long. And the one thing I can say about her, even though I don't see her on a daily basis, is that she is consistently living with joy and happiness no matter what seems to be going on around her. I'm not saying she's perfectly happy Pollyanna, but she has joy in her life. And I want to help you get to know her better. And I'm going to bring her on and let her explain a little bit more about her story. Hey, Jami, how are you?
Hi, Julie. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here with you today.
I'm so glad we could finally make this happen. We've been talking about it for a minute now, so at least we are finally making this happen. So obviously, you know, I moved away almost right after high school, almost. And so, you know, we didn't really see each other that much since then, but I have always kept up with you on social media. And the one thing I have to say is I have truly enjoyed watching you and your wellness journey. And I would love for you to share a little bit with our audience about who you are and what that's looked like for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I'm honored that I have a platform to share my story. I think, you know, one of the critical things that I have learned in my journey, and I will give you kind of that backstory, is, you know, living out loud is a component of what brings me joy. And the reason why is because I spent the last 30 years of my life struggling and yearning so deeply to get a control of my health. And that's looked differently. It started at age 10 with body image issues. I wanted to look like all the models. I was a child of the 80s, you know, Gia was my girl. And here I was, you know, not looking like them. And just deciding that I was just going to follow life's rules and see what happened. But along the way, over those 30 years, I did everything that society told me I should be doing, right? I graduated high school. I went to college. I got married. I had kids. I found a corporate America life. From the outside, everything looked great. But on the inside, I was still struggling with my identity, who I was. And part of who I am is I'm a natural born people pleaser. I want to make everybody happy around me because if they're happy, then I can be happy. And the second part was really understanding, you know, when they are being happy, I'm serving them. And I wanted to be a servant leader. And that was kind of the culture I was raised in my work world. But something happened along the way. I got farther and farther away from who I was while I was so busy taking care of everyone else. And it's not an excuse. It was bringing me joy to bring others. But by the time I hit my 30s, I was getting more and more obese. I was drinking a little bit more than I should have been. I was turning to food as a coping mechanism for my stress. And I was just, you know, I had everything, and yet I felt like I didn't have it because I still was so unhappy with how I looked, how I felt all the time. And as I went through that, a girlfriend of mine said, you know, Jami, I miss you. I see you on social media a lot, but you went from like this vibrant, like showing up in the world, hiding behind your kids and pictures, to literally posting pictures just of your kids or not posting pictures at all. And she observed my yo-yoing. She observed my weight going up, my weight going down, hundreds of pounds lost in my journey, and gained, regained, back and forth. And I was just done. And she said, you know what, I'm a health coach now. I would really like to help you. And of course I was like, I've tried everything, girl. There isn't anything that you can get me to do. It's not going to work. But I made the decision to have a conversation with her, and I kind of spilled my heart, and I said, this is what I truly desire. This is what I desire. I desire to be a better mama. I desire to be a better wife. I desire for all that joy that I find in serving others to serve me too.
Amen.
Right? And so I said yes to my girlfriend, and I said, fine, you can coach me. I'm sure this won't work. And, you know, I'll try it for a month. And something marvelous happened. I found consistency. I took one step at a time. I went day by day. And one day turned into 2, turned into 4, turned to 8. And a year later, I was at my healthiest self I'd ever been. And it wasn't because I changed just what I was eating. It wasn't because I stopped drinking a lot of alcohol. It wasn't because I started drinking more water. It was a combination of changing a whole lot of habits over time. And I just literally rebuilt my life. And so now I just live this way, right? Instead of chasing whatever new fad diet it was, or thinking that I had to go to the gym and work my tail off and try to outrun my fork. I let go of that and I let my mindset make the difference. And that is where we are today. I just celebrated 29 months of what I call my health anniversary. The day I said yes was July 12th, 2018.
I love that because it really is an anniversary of sorts. I mean, you have that in all sort of addictions anyway, like whenever you change your life, because I'm not sure if you know, but I've worked in addiction recovery, I don't know, for quite a while. And it really is, it's a mindset, and you can't get rid of one thing without filling it with something else. And that's just the beginning, but it's such an important choice, is to make that decision. You've got to make the decision. And I'm guessing that you thought those other times you had made it, but this time was different. Is there something that it just took time to get that realization, or was there actually a mental or emotional difference in that choice you made that day?
I think it was two things. Number one, I think, all the times before I felt like I had a why, right? That's what I call it. I call it having my why, but a reason. And there was a lot of shame in the vanity card, right? And I say the vanity card, I say it with all the respect and love of the world, because you're talking to somebody who just wanted to be beautiful for 30 years, right? And I was beautiful. I was beautiful to everybody else except for myself. Exactly. And so when you look at it through the lens, it's not deep enough, right? I think the one thing that was different this time was I made a choice, and I cracked the code on finding a process that was actually going to lead me through it, which is why I decided to become a coach as well, because I found it, right? I found that. And so it was a combination of all those things, Julie, where it wasn't just one or the other any other day. It was finding that consistency and showing up and making a choice. Seeing immediate results and feeling better was the most important thing to me, because I wanted to be thin. But what happened is, over those first 30 days, I realized that there was power in making a choice every day. And so I got up and I made a decision every single day. And that momentum carried me into wanting to do more things. And then I think the other thing that allowed me to do was, about 6 weeks into my journey, I started coaching my first client, which was my mama. And we realized together that we could start breaking some of those generational chains that we thought that we were bound by, but we weren't. And what that did was it started to create a kind of a new support community for me, which also then, because I am a servant leader, because I am a people pleaser, there was just enough of that kind of, I call it structural tension, on those days when I was like, I don't want to, I don't feel like it. I was like, but I have people counting on me. And it was enough to keep me going to get through that day until I could get back to a place where I felt like, okay, I can just keep going. And then the last part was having an education around total wellness helped me kind of undo a lot of the misunderstandings I had about what truly being healthy meant. And once I was able to rewire my brain around some of those concepts that I had been trying to break up with for 30 years, was when I realized I really did have all the tools in front of me. I just needed to use them in a little bit of a different way. And I needed somebody to guide me, which is where I leaned on my coach.
I love that. And I love that you were able to ask for help. I mean, granted, nobody technically needs a coach. However, you don't live on an island by yourself, and why do it alone when you can have help and the biggest cheerleader who's there, and also to call you on your crap. But something that you touched on that there's actually two things that really pop into my mind. One is that you didn't always feel like doing it. And I would love for you to talk into that a little bit more, because I think that when people typically decide that they're going to make a change in their life that's major, they believe on some level that it's going to be an easy decision every time or every day. And in reality, it's not. There's days you don't want to. There's days when you want that piece of cake. There's days when, maybe you want that drink or you don't feel like drinking all that water, whatever the case may be. How did you walk yourself through those moments?
Yeah, so powerful, Julie. I think the biggest tool in my toolkit that's helped me accomplish that, and I do it, I find myself doing it often in lots of situations, is what I call stop, challenge, choose. It is a 3-step process that allows me to really pause and think about the choice that I truly want to make in the moment. And there's this idea of having executive control over your I'm going to get like a little sciencey for a second, right? It's about having that mastery of your prefrontal cortex. If you can really master that and rewire it in a really simple way that allows you to pause and go, what is it that I really want in this moment? I think when you start something, it's really exciting, right? And you don't necessarily need, and I hesitate using willpower because that's kind of jargon that has done me a lot of harm.
Yep.
Because it makes me feel like I'm not strong enough when I don't have it. But the plain fact of the matter is biologically, we are hardwired to be hunter-gatherers, right? We are biologically hardwired to go after what's in front of us immediately because we don't know when we're going to have it again. But here in this, in this beautiful country that we live in and the privilege that I have in my life, everything's available to me all the time, right? And so it's how do I choose what I want in the moment, right? You said something like, maybe I want to have that cake or maybe I want to have that drink. Those things are not bad. I don't like putting moral value on food or drink or anything like that, but there are choices. And if you can truly understand your purpose and those choices that you are making and how they relate to your short and long-term goals, gives you the power in the moment to stop and go, what is it that is the problem that I'm trying to solve, right? And then challenging myself, is this actually going to solve my problem? Is this actually going to help me in this moment? Or is it going to distract me in this moment? Is it because I want to, I don't want to go on my walk because it's raining. I live in Seattle. It rains all the time. If I let that be an excuse for not moving my body the way that I know it wants to be moved so that I can feel better and sleep better, then I'm doing myself a disservice, right? And so, okay, what is the solution then? And then make the choice, right? So stop, challenge, choose is the tool that I use to help me get through those moments.
I love that. I've never heard it put like that before. So yeah. And because when you do pause, you have a second to really think about it instead of just reacting. So I think that that's important in it of itself. When you lost weight, did you notice that your sleep got better?
Girl, we can talk about all the things that got better, but yes. And I want to be really transparent for you and your viewers. I was popping sleeping pills like nobody's business because I was so exhausted. Mm-hmm. I was exhausted all day. I was running myself thin. And I was like, I just want to sleep. But if I didn't have something in my system, I wasn't sleeping, right? Yeah. On top of that, I was having heartburn pretty much 24/7, which if you've ever had heartburn at night, sucks. You can't sleep. It's just always there. And I had plantar fasciitis on top of all that, which is a condition of inflammation in your heel, which caused me so much pain. So I was trying to sleep with this like brace to try to help, right? So I'm obese, I'm heartburn 24/7, I am popping sleeping pills, just begging to sleep. I'm doing anything, right? And I'm still waking up and I can't get out of bed and I'm exhausted. So when I made some very fundamental shifts around my nutrition and my hydration, and I really got like really diligent about those, yeah, girl, I started sleeping. It took me a little while. And I think that that's the biggest thing is you have to be a little bit patient, especially if you have some of those issues that I talked about, or you're taking other medications because of those issues. It is really hard to trust and get through that really painful. It took me 56 days of making intentional choices, but I'm telling you what, that first night I slept through the night, I woke up, I jumped out of bed and I started crying because I felt like a human being for the first time in a long time. And I never, ever wanted to go back to whatever it was that I was experiencing before.
I've always ever since I was a little child, I had issues with sleeping. And so, yeah, I sleepwalk, I sleep talk. There are some funny stories about me sleepwalking and sleep talking, by the way, but very interesting ones. But the point, though, is that I think that, I started taking over-the-counter sleeping medication, but it was still medication to help me sleep. And I got used to it, became part of my routine. So to get rid of that was really hard because I felt like I needed it, even though I really didn't. I felt like I had to break my addiction mentally to that being a part of my process for going to sleep. But me too, it didn't help, it didn't make a difference right away. But you got to be willing to be comfortable to be more comfortable eventually. And there is an end where it will get better. But I love that you shared that, because people think that sometimes it's a magic pill and like, well, it didn't work for me, so I'm going to stop. Meanwhile, they're 3 feet from gold, and all they had to do is just keep digging a little bit longer.
Just a little bit longer.
So how did you notice that your relationships changed as well? And how did it, because before you answer that, this is something else I want to touch on, is there's and I always hesitate to mention facts without remembering who they came from, so that people can go and double check themselves. But there's a fact that when you make a healthy choice, you affect the people around you 4 degrees of separation out. So if you change your diet, you affect 4 people out from you in a healthy and positive way. So I'm curious how that affected you in your life and your relationships.
I don't even know where to begin. So I will, and I may get a little emotional, and I'm not going to apologize for it, because this was the part where I was hurting the most. The physical things aside of not sleeping and feeling so out of control and in pain all the time. It was me being so unwell hurt so many people around me in so many ways. And it really came down to, because I wasn't showing up as my best self and using the gifts that I was given. And it came from a place of hiding, shame, darkness, me putting on this front, because here's Jami and she's full of joy all the time and she's got it all figured out and she's got this perfect life, husband, 2 kids, suburban, all the things. And what it comes down to is I was not being a great mom. I wasn't being a great mom because I really was working all the time. I wasn't being a great wife because I was so exhausted at the end of the day. The kids were in bed. I didn't want to I just wanted to go to sleep. I don't want to talk. I don't want to have conversations. I don't want to be intimate. I've been with my husband for 28 years. Julie, you know him.
I do.
He is awesome. And our lives were pure survival. And the relationships, I just didn't have much to give to anybody else, right? And so there would be months where I didn't talk to my friends, people I loved the most, or it would be quick text messages because that was all I could do, or I would just straight up ignore people. And when I started taking control, about 2 months in, I noticed how much better I was feeling. And because I was more structured, all of a sudden I was more organized, which means I magically found all this time that I didn't think that I had. And then what brings me joy is serving others. And so then I was able to use that time to start paying it forward. And so I love that idea of I don't remember what you said, 4 contacts out, but I call it the ripple effect.
Yes.
Right? Where I wanted to be that ripple effect. I wanted to be the one to go, look, because I'm making shifts, I want you to be inspired to make your best self, and then your best self, and then so on and so forth. And I think, the relationships that I had to people fundamentally changed too. And this is the thing that I have found the most in my last 3 years of being on this journey is I fundamentally know who I am now. I don't become a version of myself for others anymore. I just show up as me. And I'm okay as that people pleaser, right? I'm okay not pleasing them if who I am and what I am about doesn't please them. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm going with my bad self, and let me know how you would like me to be in your life. But I don't feel like I need to apologize for being who I am anymore. And that is freedom that I cannot even, put into words, right? So I have surrounded myself with people who I know are cheering me on. I've surrounded myself with people who will be there when I'm not my best self. I think the relationships to people have changed, but I also think, just to add on a couple of layers so you really understand how profound this experience has been for me, Julie, is, my relationships to time and money have changed.
Yep.
And now I'm really living what I call the full trilogy of healthy body, healthy mind, and abundant living, right? My relationship to understanding that living in this survival mode is actually not thriving, right?
Yeah.
Stopping at the drive-thru on the way home because I don't have, I'm going to barely make it home for dinner wasn't surviving. That wasn't putting good food in my children's bodies. It certainly wasn't fueling me. And we were spending a ton of money. And we went from feeling like we were always in debt and never having enough time to now that everything's streamlined, fast forward, and there's a lot of things that happened in the middle, Julie. So, I think success not guaranteed, right? But when you get really clear about what you want, we went from my husband and I working full-time jobs, literally in our home awake, maybe 2 to 3 hours a day, right? Instead of being out and doing all the things. My husband's now the CEO of our home. He doesn't have to go to work anymore because we got our finances in order, which means that we are surviving, right? We went from survival to thrival, right? We didn't know this pandemic was happening. How thankful am I that my husband, Nathan, has been home, because it has allowed me the freedom to continue to do what I love, provide for the family, and my kids are thriving. So when you ask, what about the relationships? That's kind of the giant 20,000 foot view, if you will.
Well, something that you talk about and I absolutely adore, and that's the whole premise of the show, is that there's more to wellness, health and wellness than broccoli and burpees. And It really is an all-encompassing thing. If one part of you is unhealthy, it brings down the whole of you. And, we tend to think, we try to compartmentalize things. Yeah. And, it doesn't quite work that way. And it's amazing how when you start putting different food into your body or different water, sleeping enough, how all of a sudden all these other options that you couldn't see suddenly appear. And mind you, they've always been there, but you didn't see them before. So we do have to go to a commercial break, but we'll be back in just a minute. All right. So that is my friend Jami, and it's so good to see her again. It's been so long, and I'm going to tell you a really quick story. I've always made my Halloween costumes, but her dad for years would refer to me as the dice whenever he was talking about me. Not by my name, I was the dice, because one year I showed up at her house in a Halloween costume that I was a dice. But anyway, we do need to go to commercial break. But before that, I do want to say hello to all of our guests that are watching live, especially Helene. I know she hasn't been feeling well today, so I wanted to make sure to welcome her in particular, and everybody else that is here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we will be right back in just a moment.
3, 2, 1, 0.
2, 3, 4.
Hey everyone, we are back again. So before I forget, you can reach me at this phone number right down here. You can text me there, or you can reach out through email as well. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out. I'm always here to help. But it's not about me today. It is about Miss Jami. So let's bring her back and ask some more questions. Hey girl, welcome back.
Hello.
So glad to have you here today. I know I keep saying that, but it has been something that you and I have been trying to make happen sort of for a while. And, you know, my platform keeps changing, but now it's TV. So, hey, I figured now is perfect time to get you out there. I would love to know, you talked about changing different habits and your mindset. What were some of the first things that you chose to change?
Yeah, I think the first couple of things that I started changing was I changed the structure of my eating habits with some guidance and some help. The very first additional one was drinking more water. So I drink a baseline of 64 ounces of water every single day. Generally, I drink about 80. And then it was very small, what I call micro habits. So the first micro habit was the office that I worked in at the time had a lot of stairs and nine floors, and I would just take the elevator because I couldn't get up one flight without huffing and puffing or feeling embarrassed because I was all red and sweating. And so my goal was to do a flight of stairs. And so it started with one flight. And then a couple of other habits were being really mindful for 1 minute, right? And then it turned into 2, then it turned into 5, right? So I knew, and ideally I wanted to have some quiet time. But as you recall earlier, like I didn't feel like I had time. And so I had to kind of contend for it in my day. And it's really hard to imagine actually getting up before your alarm. And I never understood how people do that. And I do it every day now. And then the other habit, another habit soon after that was always writing down gratitude, at least one a day, as well as what I call non-scale victories. So what am I celebrating today or this week against my goals that's going to separate my value based on my scale number, and rewiring my brain to understand that that number did not tell me what my self-worth was. And that was hard. It was 1 day, then it was 2 days, and then it was a month. But every day writing down a gratitude and a victory that allowed me to stop looking down at that number and look around at all the amazing momentum I was building.
Well, that's the thing too. And actually my spiritual mentor, he talks about this all the time, him and his wife, they're both my spiritual mentors, I should say. But one of the most important principles that they teach is celebrating the little wins, that it's not a good idea to only celebrate the big things. You need to celebrate, like you said, those little things. It's momentum, it's building. It's not, you want to be present. As part of being present too, is enjoying where you are in order. And then as you're getting to where you want to go, because it really is about the journey. You know, what's happening right now is, you know, what is your life? That's exactly what's going on. And we tend to, at least I do, or I did, I've become much better at this. You know, I'm always looking at that next goal. I didn't take time to stop and be like, hey, you know what? Like for this show, for example, I did a summit before this. I was only supposed to do 21 guests. I interviewed 42 for that. And I have like 15 for the next one already done. And then it was like, okay, well, I didn't even celebrate that win that I didn't know what I was doing and I still managed to make it happen. And then it's like, this picks up. And then I'm like, oh, wait, you know, now I got to figure out who my next guest is instead of being like, girl, you made this happen. Same thing, you know, it's like, I love that you're doing that with your life because, you know, food, relationships, money, that's what life is. Those are all things, whether you like it or not. Money is paper, but it's also freedom. And it also allows you to do things and have experiences. Now, something I know that you did, you got to go on a vacation with your husband pre-COVID. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that. And because just seeing the excitement on your face was really priceless. And I'd love for you to share that with the audience.
So all of you in the audience, I just want you to think about that, like that big dream, right? That thing that you think is never going to happen, and all the reasons why you think it can't happen. I have had a dream for a very long time, and it was rooted in this idea of one time at a wedding expo 20 plus years ago, I saw a pamphlet for Bora Bora, where your hotel room was a hut over the water.
Mm-hmm.
And I never forgot it. But at the time, and we're talking like, I got married in 99, right? That was like $12,000 for this like magical trip, of course, because, it's the wedding expo. But I just remember thinking, like, who spends that amount of money on a vacation? That is insane. Like, I got a mortgage. Like, come on, man. Like, that's insane, right? Well, I never forgot it, but year after year, you start building the life, and you're like, oh, I'm making a little bit more money, and you're climbing the corporate ladder, and you're like, oh, this is going to happen. And then one day you're like, how do I still not have any money? Like, but remember earlier I was talking about my relationships changing, and you get really focused on what you want. And fundamentally, I started understanding what abundant living is. And my husband and I said, you know what? We have our 20-year anniversary coming up. Let's go stay in that hut over the water, right? And so that's how it started. I just said, hey, babe, because he's like travel extraordinaire guru. He'll do all the research and the reviews and figure it out. And I just said, you know what? Can you just figure out how we can do this, right? I have no idea what it could look like. And he came back and he said, you know what, babe? I think I got it figured out. And not truly understanding, but just said, yes, let's just do it. We'll figure out how to pay for it. Let's just do it. And what we ended up doing was a 12-day trip to the South Pacific, where we got to see multiple islands. We got to do everything on that list, and more than I ever experienced. And the joy came through a couple of things, right, Julie? Like, number one, when you realize a dream, there's this inherent fulfillment that there are no words. I mean, I literally remember sitting on that dock and being so overcome with emotion. Like, I am sitting there in Tahiti, staring at Moorea right across the bay. I don't think I said that right, but across the water at Moorea, looking at the cruise ship in the back, in the skyline, thinking, oh my gosh, we are here.
Uh-huh.
And it's so fascinating. One of the reasons why I thought I could never do it was I was really uncomfortable in a bathing suit.
Yeah.
And I was posting videos of myself in my bikini. Like, what is happening? But I think, we had an experience where I got to experience, I'm saying experience a lot because it's so overwhelming to think about. So thank you for asking, because I haven't had a chance to tell this story in a while. What's the word I'm looking for? Not jet skiing. Oh my gosh, Julie.
Oh my God. I thought it was jet skiing on those little things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wave running. We did wave running around Bora Bora, right?
Oh, wow.
I got to see dolphins. I got to see whales. I got to see turtles. Like, I got to swim with sharks. I think the reason that I'm so wildly grateful was, yes, I realized a dream, but girl, I felt good, right?
Yeah.
Like, I had all the energy to be present and be aware and really experience everything that had to offer. But I think doing it with somebody that you have given your life to, right? Like, my husband and I have been together a long time, and we've gone through a lot. We've contended for a lot in our relationship. And so to go away for that amount of time, to be in one of the most beautiful places on earth, and to be well enough to experience it as it is, and know that there is absolutely no reason why you can't go again. And experience it in a different way. And so we already have plans to go back once pandemic world opens up and it's safe to do so.
I love that. And you're talking about being well enough to do it. And I want to touch on that a little bit more, because people don't realize that when you're feeling bad about the way you look as well, how much of an energy suck that is. You know, the shame and the guilt and the trying to hide yourself and all of this stuff is such an energy drain. People don't seem to realize that anything that, you know, everything takes energy and you only get X amount a day. So how are you going to use it? And if you can get rid of some of that and be able to use it in a different way, I would, hold on one second. Sorry. Oh, sorry. I thought there was a comment, and I was thinking she was asking a question, but it's a compliment to you, which we'll put up in just a moment. But anyway, no, I was just going to say though that, you know, it takes so much energy, mental energy, to think about all these things that you didn't even realize. I don't know if you remember Mrs. Ames back when we were in school.
Miss Kathy, I love you.
Well, something she said when she introduced herself to us one year, she said she was talking because just so the audience knows, she would introduce herself and say a little bit about who she was in her story because she wanted to have a connection with her students. And one of the things that she said is that she was married to somebody before she was married to Mr. Ames, who also worked at our school. And she said that she was in this marriage and that she didn't realize how heavy of a burden it was until she set it down. And I'll never forget that. That has stuck with me. I just imagine her like with this backpack on, you know, with all this burden of this relationship. And she didn't even realize it's the same thing though, with the shame and the guilt and the, you know, all these things that we go through, especially women, you know, that we don't realize how much energy that takes. And then you can redistribute that somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I do want to ask you about your routines or like your daily habits, I guess is a better way to put it. Do you have certain things that are non-negotiables that you do every day? And what does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important for context. I have built my routines to be completely agnostic to the day of the week or vacations. Yes. When I say these are non-negotiable, this is how I live because it serves me, because it's my choice, because I love it, right? So, you know, you were asking me about my habits earlier. Once I got all those little micro habits, then I moved on to like, what are the full end to end? So I wake up at the exact same time every single day. I'm quiet for a few minutes before I kind of get to it. Mm-hmm. And then I have two different versions depending on what my day looks like. But essentially I get up and I do things for my mind, and then I do things for my body that are, again, non-negotiable, but I don't do them for long. I do them in a structure where it's 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, instead of like, oh my gosh, it's going to take me so long to get ready and I got to do the kids and I got to blah, blah. No, all of that is done before all of that happens. I got to pour into me so that I can pour into them. And then I'm really structured about making sure that I eat no matter what within my first hour of my day. It is a non-negotiable, right? You got to eat. And I drink 24 ounces of water before I have my coffee. Right. And we all know I love my coffee. Love my coffee. But one of the things that I did to create these habits was I create habit loops, which allow me to be cued, and then I do it and then I get rewarded. And it seems so silly, but it was literally the only way to get me to drink more water was to front end it and then ease into it. Right. So my structure is then I drink my water, then I will grab my coffee. And then on the days that I'm working my corporate America job, I get out to my office and I spend about 20 minutes prepping personal things. Then I get to work. I work my core hours, and then I have a shutdown routine from that so that I separate and I'm done. And that is one of the biggest blessings that I can tell you is I used to never let it end. It was always constant 24/7. And now I'm like, it's 4:30. I'm done unless there's an emergency that my boss or I can't handle. I'm done. I'm done until tomorrow because there is nothing that's that important that I can't serve my family, right? And then I get to my family, and then we always eat dinner together at the table. We eat really beautiful foods together. And then we have quiet time as a family, whether or not that's a Bible study. Right now we're doing an Advent card study, which is really fun. And then, we might have some quiet time, and then I go to bed at the exact same time. And within that, there's a routine where I'm getting my body and my mind ready for sleep, right? And this is literally my day, every day. Doesn't matter what I'm doing.
I love that. And then a lot of it becomes automatic anyway. So you don't really even have to think about it. It's not like it's taking up that mental energy either. So you can focus that somewhere else. So imagine what you can do with that as well. I love that. So do you watch TV? Is that something that you do, or is that?
I do hold time in my calendar for TV. And the reason why is it's something that is, it's important to me and my husband. Like, it's our quiet kind of like cuddle time where we'll just kind of curl up. And, because of our trip to the South Pacific, we were on a cruise ship outside of Tahiti, and we met this couple who told us about this really trashy show on Bravo called Below Deck, which, no disrespect Below Deck people, but, it's this like mindless, silly thing. But we started watching it because it's fun to see, I like to see behind the scenes of things. I don't know. I'm super like curious about it, right? Like, yes, it's a super yacht, but what's going on behind the scenes? And so, and then we really like thrillers that make us think, and we like character development. So we're very choosy about what we watch. We don't spend a lot of time watching TV every week. We just have a couple of hours because Nathan, being the CEO of our home, is like, he's always got stuff to do. And then I'm, if I'm not working at my corporate America job, I'm coaching. And that's our choice. Like, we love it. It is serving our family really well. So in those moments, we'll find a little time for TV, but I will tell you that we used to watch probably 5 to 6 times the amount we did before.
That's why I asked that question, because not that there is any shame in watching TV. This is on TV, but there's a difference between choosing it and then just mindlessly doing it. And that is something that I know that that's the difference. So I wanted to make sure we brought that up. I interviewed this lady not that long ago. Her name's KJ Landis, and you would love her. Anyway, she brought in this thing that like a different distinction of how to put something. And there's certain times or certain days where I don't want to do anything. I just want to sit on the couch, whether it's reading, watching TV, or doing my puzzles or whatever it is. I really don't even want to. And I always felt so guilty and lazy about it until she called it because she just called it being an indoor cat. Be an indoor cat for the day. And I just thought that was like the coolest way to, because now that does happen. It doesn't happen often, but I don't have to feel bad about it either, because it's okay. It's okay to, if that's what my body needs or my head needs or whatever.
Yeah.
So I know that you've done all this, and I hate to use work, but you've done a lot of growing. That's a better word. You've done a lot of growing and learning about yourself and how to treat yourself with more respect and love. That being said, I know there's still going to be days where the most healthy thoughts don't always come first to mind. How do you get yourself out of a possible negative thought loop, depending on what it is? Because it could be money related, it could be time related, it could be body image related. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it goes back to that coping mechanism that I talked about earlier, the stop, challenge, choose, combined with having my support system, combined, like there's layers of things that I have put in place to help me get through those moments, because I am human, because I am not perfect. Like, I'm so imperfect. It's painful sometimes, but I use that for growth. But to specifically answer your question, like, I think first and foremost, mentally, I look at those days with joy, because I know I need to recharge. And so I have mechanisms for recharging. Now, I've had to be really creative with those in a pandemic world, and I'm not mad about it, right? Like, I said in 2020, I wanted to get to know my kids better. Like, pandemic has allowed me that opportunity way more than I was expecting. Like next time I'll be really, really specific when I'm praying about that stuff, you guys. I'm sorry. Should have been more specific. But I'm not mad about it, right? Like I do get to know my kids. And so it comes back to dreaming and really being intentional about your purpose. And so on those days where I'm like, I'm lost, I don't feel like it, I don't want to, I have my purpose posted in like 8 different places where I know I'm going to see it. And so what that does is it allows me to that stop, challenge, choose, but in a much bigger way. Like, what is this choice? Like if I literally want to sit here in my pajamas and watch TV for 10 hours, is that serving my purpose? Or could I think about what are the things that I know I want to do that will bring me joy? And then maybe I'll go watch TV. And inevitably what happens is I'll think, oh, well, I'm just going to do that today. But then I start doing one thing and then I start doing another and then I start doing another. And then all of a sudden I only have like 2 hours left to watch TV. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to sleep so good tonight because I did all the things that I know serve my purpose, which brings me joy, which I know helps bring others joy. Does that?
I love that. Yes. No, that's so perfect. And it's so true because, as for myself, with the pandemic, I had to go from working somewhere to working from home. And my apartment's not that big. I mean, I have a bedroom, a living room, and a dining room, and you can see the living room from the dining room. So it feels like basically 2 rooms, So sometimes it's kind of like, I don't feel motivated to do anything. So I do and I learned this from Mary Morrissey, the 5-minute rule is just do something towards my purpose or my business for 5, just something. And every single time, hours later, I'm working still, like every single time. So I love that you talk about that because it's true. And sometimes like, the eating choices that we might not like love for ourselves ultimately, or watching TV or whatever, those things that are not technically as good for us. Those are just a way to cope with things. And it's the lazy way in some respects. Like it's easier for me. I'm saying lazy for me. I'm not going to speak for anybody else. It's easier for me to turn on the TV than to, maybe go read my book or whatever. But ultimately, reading my book is what actually makes me happy. And now I feel like I wasted my day after I just sat there and watched Below Deck, for example, which I've been known to watch, by the way. So I can't say anything. But anyway, we are running out of time. And I do want to talk a little bit about what you do coaching style and what that would look like if somebody wants to work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for asking. And I recognize fully that not every program out there is ideal for every single person. But what I can tell you is, as a girl who struggled for 30 years and literally has tried I'm pretty sure I've tried everything out there. I think, what you can expect from me is a lot of empathy, a lot of listening, and a really good structure that you only need to choose to show up for. And what I mean by that is, how I coach and what I coach is rooted in 4 very easy components. One is actually having a coach, somebody to cheer you on and be there. I love my coaches. Like I actually have multiple coaches because I have a support team, because I chose layers. Like I need layers of support depending on what I'm looking for. And I need people around me who are going to challenge me in a lot of things, which is, remember being a people pleaser, like it helps. It's that structural tension, like I talked about. The second part is in education. So, Julie asked me a lot about my habits today. I didn't just magically wake up and start changing habits. I needed something to guide me. And I have an education system that I utilize. It takes about a year, but it's worth that investment of showing up for yourself 5 to 10 minutes a day. That's part of my quiet time is I'm in my life book and I read my habits of health and I am learning, I am growing, and I'm filling my mind and I'm allowing my habit loops to keep training me just every single day towards getting more and more healthy. The third part is surrounding yourself with community. And so you can expect that there's going to be others on their journey and they're going to want to connect with you and support you and cheer you on. You don't have to talk to them if you don't want to, but they're there if you need them. And then the last part is actually giving you a structure based on your goals, right? So I coach lots of different body types. I coach males, I coach females. I literally, I have a 6-generation gap between my youngest and my oldest client. So I'm really in tune with all the different ages and the challenges that come with, with being younger, and then also with being in that older age group, and the challenges that physically come around with that is also, there's a lot of mental stuff that you need to work through. So putting all 4 of those components together, and my role as the coach is to really be there to help you guide and to remind you why you started in the first place when you forget. Because it is going to happen. You're going to have that momentum like I talked about, and then it's all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is my day to day. Yes, it's your day to day, but that's what you wanted. Maybe it's not as sexy as, the life you were living before, but what do you really want? And then how do you let that obstacle become the way forward?
I love that you're talking about that too, because, well, one, it's like a shiny new car. It's fabulous when you first get it, but after a little while, the new car smell wears out, and now you're driving your car and it's not as exciting. But that doesn't mean the car doesn't have any value.
Right.
And, and the other thing too, is you mentioned about it being like a year-long commitment. It took you 30 years to get where you were. So 1 year, and I'm just using you as the example, one little year is a really small investment when you think about it. And I used to be, and the reason why I'm mentioning that is because I was one of those people who's like, a year? Are you kidding me? But with a year, you get the 4 seasons, you get all the holidays, you get a good chance for every type of thing to come up, and you have that built-in support. So I want to champion the idea of working with somebody and being committed with them for a year, because it really does make a huge difference. Yeah. Anything else that you would love to share about? Is it just they can reach you via email?
Yeah. So Coach Jami Cox at Gmail is a great way to get a hold of me. The other way to get a hold of me is on the socials, right? Jami Cox. JamiCox. I'm on Facebook. I'm on, and I have a public profile, so you can find me. I'm also on the Instagram. I said as the Jami Cox. Slide into my DMs, right? Like, let's just have a conversation, right? Like, I'm not here to convince you to do anything. I just want to hear what your goals are, and then I want to personalize the right approach. And keep in mind that I am a lighthouse. I am not the captain of your ship, right? My purpose is to shine bright and allow and guide you so that you can get to where you want to go. But I am not going to jump off the cliff and come steer the boat for you. You need to take personal responsibility. And if you are ready to be the dominant force in your life, then show up. And it's okay if you don't understand all the intricacies. It's okay. Like, I'm just a couple steps ahead of you. Like, I am not that far ahead of you. And so I will walk right alongside you, and I will match your pace. If you want to run full out, let's run. If you want to take it slow, let's take it slow. Because the bottom line is that it's forward, right? And there's no comparing to anybody else, because comparison is a thief of joy. This is yours and your journey alone. So I'm going to shine bright. You steer your ship, and we will get to our destination.
I love that. I know a lot of people, especially people that I've worked with in the past, is they come to me. A lot of people come to me thinking that I'm the one that's going to do the work for them. It doesn't work like that. When you hire a personal trainer, they don't do the push-ups for you. You're still the one that has to do them. So I love that, and I mean, it's fabulous too that you have coaches, because I would never trust a coach that doesn't have a coach.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because how can you be offering something that you don't believe in enough to purchase or invest in? I should say, invest in yourself. So I love that too, because, and even if, say, like somebody who's watching doesn't want to work with you or doesn't want to work with me, keep that in mind, because that is such a huge thing. Definitely want to make sure that whoever you're working with resonates with you. And knowing Jami, and she didn't even talk about some of the more dramatic things that she's been through in the last couple of years. But let me tell you, this woman, she can see the light and she is the light. So, just let her help you. She's an amazing woman.
Thanks, Boo.
Yeah, of course. Well, I just want to thank you again for being on the show. It has been such a pleasure to hear you speak about things. I mean, you and I speak the same language. So I'm like, yes, girl. Amen. But anyway, yeah, I guess until next time, it's so great to see you, Jami.
It's good to see you too. Thank you again for inviting me, and I look forward to speaking again soon.
Absolutely. So obviously, I love that woman. She is amazing. And we are at the end of the hour. And so we will be back on Thursday. Yeah, I should know when my show is by now. But thank you again, Jami, for being a part of. And you can reach her on social, like she said, or at her email address. Until then, until next time, bye.